but I tried to help. I've heard this phrase so many times, and it's really kind of this risk, right? If there, guys especially, I mean, most of us are guilty of this at one time. Ask anybody who's married. But there's a key point that's missing in this, and that's permission. So there's three things that I want to kind of go over when somebody's trying to get help, or trying to be helped rather. And I'm definitely guilty of this one. I mean, I think we've all probably been there. But it's something to kind of always keep conscious of. Because when somebody's trying to tell you, especially pain, or a trouble, what 90% of the time what they're looking for is an ear. All they want to do is feel heard, feel like somebody understands them, and then, if they're open to it, then they want help. So when somebody first comes to me, the first thing I want to do is just listen. Because that's going to solve a lot of things for them. They're heard, they feel belonging, and one way to do that is kind of repeat back to them what they're saying. And this may feel a little bit weird to you, especially when you first start doing it, but verbatim, find the words and the phrases that they're using and really kind of match their tone, match their cadence, match their volume, their pitch, all that stuff, and say it back to them. You know, if somebody says, "Oh, I have a shitty day," go say, "Yeah, shitty day." And they're going to feel like you truly understand them. And that's a big deal, especially for them. And then what that does is opens the door. If they do need help, it opens the door for you to be able to help them better. So that's kind of the precursor. And now let's say they do. You've gotten through the listening. And then you can say, do I have your permission? And do I have your partnership? That's always the first question after listening. Because if you don't have their permission, everything following that is just going to be conflict. Because then they're going to feel resentment for you stepping in when they didn't want you to step in. And I think that's where a lot of people kind of skip that step, because they're so eager and they're so wanting to pour their heart into the other person, but then they're like, "Hey, I don't want help. Why are you doing this?" So always, always, always ask for permission first. And then partnership. When you have the ability to help somebody, ask them to help you help them. It goes so much smoother when you have permission and partnership. Because sometimes when you say something, it might be off a little bit. But if they're helping you, then they can actually kind of improve your verbiage so you can help them even better. There's an old kind of saying, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. That's about permission. You may be able to help them truly and deeply, but if they don't want to be helped, right, then the next thing is education. Help them understand why they need help. And that's the levels of coachability. I did a video series, actually, I think 7 videos 6 months ago-ish. If you're interested in those, I can send it to you. Just shoot me a message. And then number 2 is find out where they are. Think about going on a road trip. You got to know where you're starting from and where you want to go to, and then you can plot a course. So the first thing is, where are they? Because you really don't know. There's a lot of stuff going on inside people's heads. And then to kind of get a feel for that, first you kind of have that general concept of where they are. It's usually going to come out in the form of a nominalization. These are the words that don't have physicalness. Love, for example, is a nominalization. They could say, I'm fearful, I am panicked, I feel anxious. These words don't have any meaning in the physical realm. I can't pick it up, right? But they have emotional states attached to them. So then we figure out, okay, can you remember the last time you felt that? And then they're going to go, okay, yeah, well, here's the last time. And then you can kind of figure out what in that moment caused them or triggered them to feel that thing. And then once you get that moment that it goes from I'm okay to I'm not okay, then you can get what's going on inside the body. And why that's important is because that's what our emotions and the physical, so there's a connection between everything, right? The mind and the body. So when you think something, your body reacts. When your body reacts, you think something. They're so intertwined. And if you can find that moment of trigger where the body starts feeling something, you can also then find out what they're thinking. So they're very well connected. And then number 3 is, where do they want to be? How do they want to feel? How do they want to be as a person in that moment of that trigger? So this is your destination. Somebody may say, I got scared and I want to feel excited. Say public speaking, for example. When you're up on stage, there really isn't much difference, actually none at all if you really want to dive deep into it, between feeling fear and anxious versus feeling excited and happy. The body sensation is almost identical. It's just how we associate it with our thinking. So you can flip it between anxious of public speaking to excited about public speaking. And that's really powerful, especially when you need to do public speaking. I mean, not all of us need to, but for those who do, or those who want to, it's pretty powerful to be able to do that. So first we get that general idea, where they want to go, the normalization, and then how do they want to feel? That's important, because if you remember, the trigger has a feeling attached to it. So we can transport the feeling from something not desired to something desired. We can really shift how we react to things. And then what's their motivation for wanting to feel this way? Having a motivation allows them to really attach to that new state. This is kind of like, for example, for those of you with kids, when your kid does something, let's say, not so nice to another kid, what do you feel? Do you want to react in a way that is helpful to the child? Or do you want to react with that panic of all the other things that could go wrong, right? So, the motivation. Evidence. How do you know you are XYZ? So, for example, the person on stage, how do you know you want, or how do you know you will be excited? The body sensation, the crowd may be cheering, all these things can find out the reasons how you can actually know you're in said place. Some people call it like the movie method. Can you actually film it being done? And then the last piece, which is also, I think, kind of overlooked many times, is what prevents you from getting there. And there's kind of a breakdown about, there's things like ecology. You might not want to do it for maybe a good reason. Or maybe you don't know how to do it. Or maybe you need to answer a few questions before you go and do it. And then there could be like conflict. I both want it and don't want it. The one I always use is like eating a jelly donut, right? If you're trying to lose weight or trying to be healthy and somebody hands you a donut, you're like, ooh, that looks good. But then you're like, the other half of your brain's like, hey, stupid, you're trying to lose weight, don't eat that thing. So you both want it and don't want it at the same time. That's kind of the conscious mind and the unconscious mind kind of battling each other out. So when you have those things, it's very hard to change without changing or helping fixing those conflicts, the ecology. So you can ask a few questions. What's the downside if you do it? And if the person has a laundry list of things, well, do they actually want it? Or maybe they just need to figure out a few things on how to mitigate those things before they actually go and do it. Or you can ask the question, would you still want to be doing this 10 years from now? So you kind of project it out into the future and say, hey, is this sustainable? Do I actually want this? For example, a lot of fad diets are like this, where you have to eat something like so crazy restrictive, nobody is going to be able to last more than, say, a couple of months, maybe a year. Do you want to be doing this in 10 years? Is this a reasonable thing to do? So then maybe the person redefines their goal a little bit. I only want to do it for 3 months. Okay, you could probably do any diet for 3 months. Doctor approved, of course. And then, is there any part of you that's hesitating? And sometimes this is just because people don't know how to make good decisions. So a decision is about the want, about the dream, the fantasy, not about having the resources. And I think a lot of times we try to justify the decision with all of the resources first. Like say, oh, I want to go buy a house, but I can't buy a house until I have this laundry list. It's not how decisions work. If you want something, you just make the choice right then and there. Boom, I want this. Now we go figure out how to do it. Whereas a lot of people's dreams, never come true because they let all of the things around them govern making the decision. So the decision comes first, then the resources, not the other way around. I think people get lost in that maze. And then, are you ready, willing, and able? If we believe everything we've been taught, pretty much everything's possible. So able, I think, is almost always true. Willing is obviously the choice, the decision. And then ready. Is there any conflict that needs to be fixed first? So I hope this kind of helps you wrap your head around helping other people and how to help yourself. I think self-diagnosis is also very important too. If you have questions about this, feel free to reach out to me. Drop a comment below. If you don't want to do a public comment, send me a private message. If you want to work with me one-on-one about this stuff, I can help you get to your goals faster. Love to work with you. Be an honor. And otherwise, have a beautiful day.